Hello again. We will continue today developing both the arithmetics of the Pythagorean school with the science of the triangles synthesized in the Tetrarches to try to understand the secret knowledge of the theorem of Pythagoras. We have discussed in our last session how the eye of the creator opened. He emanated the first concept or idea and he became two, and all of a sudden he was in the first polarity. How these two poles started to interact, and from the interaction a third was born, the sun, with a balancing potentiality between the two sides, and how with the birth of the sun we were in the third road of the Tetrarches, and how mother, son and father started to interact between each other like a moving compass to create the whole space, where then as a matrix the creation could be projected. And how, when the correct relationship appeared after creating the whole, visiting the whole potentiality of a space and creating the matrix, then they assume a specific relationship that allowed the triangle to close and the things to fix. When the three are moving but are yet open in an angle, they visit all the opportunities and create the matrix of the space. When they have finished visiting all the possibilities, then they're ready to form the matter. And then father and son come together to the core, and the feminine aspect, the body, matter, goes outside. The electron is outside and is gravitating around the nucleus. And when this happens, atoms are committed. They're committed to create in a specific pattern, and the triangle is formed. And then this universe, this manifestation of the creator, is committed to follow a path. Then, from the mind of the creator, the first complete triangle emerges, where in the number 3 of the Tetrarches, the next steps is to start to populate now this matrix with the atoms and to create matter. And I want to share with you at this point one of the occult meditations by Sri Parvati Kumar in his book by the same name, Occult Meditation. This is the meditation number 84 that says, vertical rotate horizontal. Vertical rotates the horizontal, and these are the two axes that are rotating and creating the matrix. Horizontal meet verticals. Degrees expand angles, so that the angles are open and they create the proper angle so that the forces can be equilibrated. The angles awaken the angels. Who are these angels? These are the angels that will contribute now to populate the matrix. These are the angels that are the architects. They are the first that are then created and awakened to start contributing and building the creation. And then the wheel of time starts to rotate. When this happens, we have the matrix, we have created a space, we have the atoms, this whole wheel of creation start to rotate, and then time appears as such. So this meditation, I will read it again. Vertical, rotate horizontals. Horizontals meet vertical. Degrees expand angles. Angles awake angels. The wheel rotates. So we are in the third line of the Tetrakes. From the universal mind, the first triangle of an idea of the universe has been formed. We have the idea, we have the project, we have, if God is an architect, we have the plan of the creation, and now we have to put it into physicality. We have to express it in the physical world. But we already have the atoms. So now the atoms need to start associating, building, and the angels as the first emanation of the angles that appear in the creation also start to expand and contribute to be the workers in putting all these bricks of the atoms together to create matter. And then we are in the fourth level of the Tetrakis, number 4, where matter actually appears. And the 10 is conceived. When matter appears, the creation is complete. And then we start combining things, and the complexity starts. By the creation is already expressed. And now I want to share with you how this creation is combined together. No? So we have already mentioned here that this was the initial, I would say this was the first dimension, the dimension where there was a first split. Then from this first split of polarity, the sun appears, and the second dimension is created. And the second dimension, with all the power of the elementals that are not yet there, contribute to build the matrix. And when the matrix is built and the angles are ready to express the rectangle, then our dimension, in the sense that we are projected in our consciousness in this dimension, appears. And this is the third dimension. So we are now having first, second, and third dimension. And from the third dimension of this first triangle in the mind of the creator, we have to conceive matter. And in the third dimension, to conceive matter, everything has to take a quadruple form. Remember, there are 4 physical elements: fire, water, air, earth. There are 4 orientations of space: north, south, east, and west. There are 4 major archangels. The matter, our lives, physical lives, are divided into 4 periods. The year is divided in 4 seasons. So 4 is a way to organize matter. Okay? And the 4th is represented by the square. So from this third dimension, to create the matter, the first square of matter is created. This represents our physical world. And in this physical world of the first dimension, the multiple unit of consciousness that in the meantime also were born from unity come down to populate this third dimension and to become self-conscious. So in this process of creation, when the third dimension is created, then the creator says, well, we have the screen, we have the matter, we have the bricks, we have a lot of angels helping to create and to build the physicality. We need to now populate this dimension. And then several units of consciousness, millions, milliards of sparks coming from the center of the creator, from that intense fire, projecting little sparks that are units of consciousness with different degrees of evolution, are projected into the third dimension to start their particular experience. And when we look at this, we are now reaching the place where we start to understand what Pythagoras meant by his theorem. In fact, all creation is but information. So if we call this third dimension A, what Pythagoras said is that the information that is populating A that is populating this side is equal to the sum of the information that comes from B and from C. So he said, this is what the theorem of Pythagoras said, A, this line, the third dimension, A, let's call this A, the third dimension squared, so that there's a physicality, equals the first dimension squared plus the second dimension squared. And the magical thing about his theorem is that he is telling us we are projected here in the third dimension, and we feel that there's no way to connect back with the source. But Pythagoras says everything that is populating this third dimension is but and only the addition of the second and the first. So he gives us the way to find in this third dimension the way back to the source. So this is my personal understanding of this theorem. This is the way that this knowledge has opened to me by impregnation and canalization of these energies. This is what I learned by the visits of the spark of consciousness of the great being called Pythagoras, and this is what I wanted to share with you today. In his theorem, mathematically, he proved that in a triangle with a rectangle, the sum of the square of the first vector and second vector that contribute to form the rectangle equals the square of the opposite or closing vector in the triangle. However, in a very much deeper sense, he taught us how, from the triangle, from the mind of the creator, the square, the physicality of matter appears, and how, in this third dimension, that we inhabit the information and the path to go back to the source is hidden but exists within this dimension, but most importantly because we are living in an holographic universe within the center of each one of us. And this is also how he expressed this in a very simple way of organizing thoughts in the Tetractys. So, we reach the wonderful number 5 now with the 4 dots of the creation and the vertical dot of the triangle, which in fact is a 7, because we have a combination of 4 of matter and 3 in the triangle. We'll leave it there. By this time you may have considered multiple other complex ways of putting this information together. This is what I wanted to share with you about the insight that I received and was requested to impart. I have not seen if somebody else had discussed or showed this information in the same way that I have received it, but I thought that it would be a great honor to humbly put together this information to be shared, so that another level of comprehension of the Pythagorean theorem can also reach people who may be interested in this sacred knowledge. To close the video, I want also to express another of the occult meditations from the book of Sri Parvati Kumar, and it's the meditation 86 that says, tables turn, timetables framed, planetary adjustments, levels set in squares, set squares erected, right angle established, wrong angles adjusted, accounts squared up. I thought that this very nicely describes what we have seen in the adjustment of the first 3 to 4 matter. The angles, the tables, the first tables turn. The time, space, matrix by this turning is framed. There are adjustments at every level, and finally the level sets in squares. The squares are erected and the right angles are established. When the angles are not right, the wrong angles are adjusted, so that when the right angle is established, the mind of the creator can already commit to a creation, and then they can start building up the square of matter. So this is another very important occult meditation that is explained geometrically in the theorem of Pythagoras. Thank you very much.